Guys, it's another Friday, and that means it's Clone Wars Day, and that is this week's episode, Season 7, Episode 4. Full spoilers ahead, guys. If you haven't watched the episode yet, you have been warned. We're going to have a great little discussion here, just kind of talking like you were sitting here talking with the Clone Wars series with me. It's been really great kind of just diving in each single week, providing theories, and in this week, we finally get our exclusive finale to the first arc of the season, The Bad Batch, which, a lot of people know from the unfinished episodes. I never had watched those, so this was all new to me. If you guys are new here, though, and you guys love the Clone Wars, or in general, if you just love Star Wars, make sure, again, to hit that like and subscribe button so you guys never miss out on any sort of review like this. That way, we can have a great conversation every single week. And also, make sure to comment down below and let me know what your guys' thoughts are. What are your guys' theories for the rest of the series, and what are you guys hoping to see later in this season? Let's get straight into this, though. With these reviews, I'm a little bit less edity, just kind of talking about what I felt and what some of my favorite moments throughout this whole episode were. For me, this was a great episode, and for me, it's my second favorite of this arc, and my second favorite of this whole season so far. This was really, again, one of the great episodes in here, and I mention it every week, but it's so cool to see that the Clone Wars is actually back. Like, I feel like a kid waking up every Saturday morning, like when I was younger, to watch a cartoon series that I was so obsessed with. And obviously, it's a Friday morning, well, at midnight, very, very early Friday morning, and it brings me back to those childhood flares of when I was younger. And I'm hoping it maybe does the same thing for you guys, because there's just something special about the Clone Wars. I mentioned it. It's my favorite era of Star Wars, and how it kind of just builds about these characters so much more lovably, especially Anakin Skywalker, which I really want to talk about the scene when he kills Trench. That scene in particular really just starts adding to more layers of Anakin. Obviously, we'd seen this in earlier seasons of how it's building up to where he ends up going in Revenge of the Sith, but I think that extreme moment right there was just showing to where his levels were going, and it's like all of a sudden he just cuts his arms off. Trench shocks him later in, stabs him right through. I'm just like, damn, Anakin, you getting dark already. And I really love that scene. Like, that scene in particular really stuck out to me overall in this whole entire episode, because this was the giant conclusion to defeating Trench. The Bad Batch I don't think we'll see him for the rest of the season. I want to still see them. I actually think there was a glimmer of hope. We could still see him around maybe Order 66. I think we're actually going to see this by the end of the season. I could be completely wrong, but in general, it was nice to see them in here and kind of get a nice little conclusion, tie-in, especially with where Echo goes by the end of this episode. But in general, this was a nice little war episode, as last week was kind of the setup to this. This is kind of the extreme to go forward within it. We get a little bit more Mace Windu and, of course, Obi-Wan Kenobi joining them, which one of my favorite moments is when they're all jumping in, diving into battle. Echo's kind of sitting there, doing his little tinkering, letting them know what plans are kind of going to go about. And I love how I love how Mace Windu is like one of the only Jedi it's trying to negotiate with the droids. Like, he's actually trying to negotiate with them, like, hey, let us reprogram you for better things. And they go, fire, 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 Roger, Roger, pew, pew, pew. And I'm just like, you guys are idiots. And I love how Obi-Wan was just like, all right, you try it. And they just go down there and start killing them. But the way, like, Mace Windu's so cocky, but at the same time, he's so humble. And that's what makes him always been one of my favorite characters in general in the Star Wars lore. I love that attitude era that he's able to have throughout any of the portrayals that we've seen him in this season. And just in general, that short little segment of a line was just beauty and touching, and I loved it. And the action again swells into here to be just fantastic. There were some awesome shots when they're all dropping in. Awesome. A lot of the explosion shots, especially at the ending of this episode, beautiful. And just in general, the way that they are able to sway the camera is just so awe-inspiring. I've mentioned this, and that there's just some sort of knack of beauty when it comes to animation in Star Wars. And people I've always seen complain about the animation, say, in Rebels or Clone Wars. And I've always been, I'm not the biggest fan of that kind of 3D animation. Personally, for me, one of my favorite animated Star Wars things they've ever done is the original Gendry Star Wars thing. If you don't know who Gendry is, he made Samurai Jack. He made his own Star Wars Clone Wars series, and it was so good. Obviously, it's not canon, but I love the 2D aspect of that, but living through this last few seasons, especially like 5, 6, and 7, really have had some of the coolest animation standpoints, and it really seems like they have time crunched for a lot of that cool stuff, and I'm really looking forward to what they're going to be able to do in the next 2 arcs within this season. But leaving into the Bad Batch, we get some great action sequences throughout this. Echo gets shocked. My theory was wrong. He did not turn to the dark side of this team. He ends up actually joining the Bad Batch by the end of this episode, which seemed pretty fitting, and I think that I kind of got a little teary-eyed by the end with Rex and him, and how Rex is walking away, and it just feels so symbolized of where Echo's journey had been coming out, and how he feels like he belongs with the Bad Batch now due to all the transformations and the scars that the Separatists had done to him. It seems beautiful in his aspect of being a clone, and there's just been something about this of how they're able to make me care about all the clones, and especially knowing where Rex ends up going inside the whole Star Wars series really just it fills my heart up with joy a little bit to see that moment, and really where it kind of just everything ends up going within the Star Wars lore. It's quite beautiful. And before I give you guys my final thoughts on this episode, make sure again hit that like, subscribe, and if you guys enjoy the Clone Wars, if you guys love Star Wars, I love talking about it each week, make sure to comment down below and let me know what your guys' theories are for next week's episode. What are you guys hoping to see later in the season? Let's discuss it as well down there. And again, just a big thank you to you guys for watching this video. I love doing these every single early morning on Friday, and I just love talking Star Wars and being able to talk it with you guys. So thank you guys again so much for clicking on this. So overall, the episode Unfinished Business, Season 7, Episode 4, was a great conclusion to this arc. We got some great moments with Mace Windu and Obi-Wan Kenobi. Awesome little action sequences throughout it with some beautiful animation. Anakin Skywalker's going a little bit more towards the dark side as he's just getting a little bit more brutal. Gets that detonator, Wrecker gets to blow it, and there were some quite awesome action sequences with the Bad Batch trying to show up one another, especially when it got to the sharpshooter one. The way he's bouncing off the bullet was just great. I had a blast with this episode. I'm sure a lot of you guys did too. It's taking me back to my childhood days, and I can't wait to hear where your guys' thoughts were on this episode. So tune in next week as I join in and dive into episode 5. It's going to be a fun one at that, guys. So thank you guys again so much for watching this. And of course, until next time, may the Force be with us all.